Good evening, everyone. Happy Saturday to you, and hopefully everybody out there viewing us can hear me in the chat. I appreciate you. Feel free to go ahead and sign on. In the meantime, I want to say hello to everyone. I'm Miss Shannan, Diversity and Community Relations Director here with the Twin Cities Film Fest, and I thank you for joining us for tonight's TCFF Empower and Amplify discussion, Juneteenth, a BIPOC creative perspective. Now, while Juneteenth has been celebrated in many Black communities, ongoing calls for racial equity and social justice across the nation have greatly heightened this focus. And so we are glad to be having this conversation this evening. So helping me throughout this conversation, along with everyone who is viewing us and can be part of this conversation by putting your questions or comments into the chat, I have a very talented and esteemed group of friends and guests who are here to help me out. So I want to start with the person who suggested this panel and who helped us put this together, Mr. Lee Henry Jordan, Director and President of Jordan's Extra Casting. And Lee, I know that you also have worked for quite some time here in the Twin Cities community and with the National Juneteenth Celebration Committee. So welcome to the conversation, Lee. Thank you for joining us. How has your Juneteenth been today? I know it's been a very busy day for you.
It's been a very busy month for me, but basically today went very, very well. It was one of our first Juneteenth celebrations as a national holiday, which the bill was just signed this Thursday. So we're very, very honored and just pleased to death that the rest of the world will now join us in the celebration of Juneteenth.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate all the work and so many community members like you have done for years, Lee, in getting this national holiday actually signed and brought into reality. So thank you very much. I have questions, though, on how you feel now that we actually have this national holiday, but we'll come back to that after we have a chance to introduce the remainder of our panel. I also want to say hello to our friend John Sullivan, who has just said hi for the chat. Signing in from New York. Thank you for joining us, John.
Yes, in the house.
In the meantime, go ahead and throw them in the chat as well. Next, I want to introduce another extremely talented panel guest. She is an actress, a writer, and a director based here in the Twin Cities. Please welcome to the conversation, Charla Marie Bailey. Hello, Charla. How's it going?
Very well, thank you.
It is so good to see you. Yeah, it is so good to see you because the last time I saw you, you were one of the last people I got to see perform in person before everything turned virtual. Because I saw you, because you do have such a wide breadth of work that you are in, and such a talented actress. I know you do short films, long films, independent films. I actually had the opportunity to see you in a stage production that was an adaptation of, I believe, a work of Shakespeare. Do you remember that, Charla?
Yes. They called it Lady M. It was a piece of the Macbeth scene,
well,
along with an independent play written by someone here in Minnesota called Glass. And they Full Circle Theater combined the two plays back to back. And it will be streaming for the festival this year.
Oh, wonderful. It was wonderful to see you in that, and I'm so glad that you are back. Real quick, before we get to our next two panelists, I do want to say hello to our executive director from the Twin Cities Film Fest, who is watching us out there. Don't worry, that's no additional pressure, panelists. He's a great So thanks for watching, Jayton. If you have any questions, feel free to chime in throughout the conversation. I do want to take a moment now and travel. We do have a panelist who is joining us all the way from the great state of Texas. So with us this evening, joining us from Texas, award-winning writer, producer, director, and filmmaker, Gordon S. Williams. Thank you very much for signing in, Mr. Williams. How is it going over there in Texas?
It's going well. Thank you for having me.
Mr. Williams, I was looking up some of the work that you've done, and thank you very much for joining us. And I know that you have a lot of work that's very impacted by the conversation we're going to have this evening. But specifically, I did see a historical short that you created that I know got some additional buzz last year, although it's something that I think you said you worked on about 5 years ago, called The Example, which was a historical short film about the 1943 Beaumont race riot. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And from one of the things
that's near and dear to our heart.
Thank you. And it's also near and dear to the conversation we're having about Juneteenth, because if I remember correctly, some of the things that take place in that film are kind of kicked into high gear because of a Juneteenth celebration of the past. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, the riot actually took place in Beaumont in history this past week leading up into Juneteenth. So there was a lot happening that made that event occur. And having this discussion around Juneteenth is also fitting dealing with the Beaumont race riot.
Well, thank you very much for sharing with that. I have more questions about that to come. And our additional panelists this evening, another filmmaker from here in Minneapolis, our actor, writer, producer, and filmmaker, Mr. Leonard Searcy. Hello, Leonard. Thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me.
So how has your Juneteenth gone for you so far today? Yes. Can you hear us?
Yeah. Juneteenth has been great. I didn't get to
Oh.
but it's been wonderful.
I feel you. I feel like that's the situation for a lot of us on the creative side of things, that national holidays don't necessarily count when you are a solopreneur. Like we don't, like I don't necessarily get a national holiday, but I am very excited that it's available to people who that happens. And Lee, let's come back to you as we start this conversation with the rest of our panelists, because I know that this is a great time of celebration, because this has been something that a lot of people have been working on and working towards for years. So now that we're here, now that we have President Biden signing this into reality, what do we do now? Is it an educational standpoint? How do we make this actually be something that is impactful, not performative? Lee, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I would like to actually thank Leonard for playing Frederick Douglass for me for at our Juneteenth celebration, and also doing a little bus stop dance. Which is always, I love that video. So it's important as far as I'm concerned, the importance of Juneteenth being a national holiday. It will give us that opportunity once again as people of color. The contributions that we have made here in America have always been kind of pushed to the side, not talked about, not even a glimpse, and not to mention the fact incorrect in so many ways. So to me, that is one of the most important parts about Juneteenth, is that we're able to actually kind of bring a lot of the truth to the front. And now we have a national holiday in which to do it.
Thank you very much for that. And I feel like that dovetails into a lot of the work that you've done, Gordon, about making sure that those historical contexts and those historical stories are continued to be passed down. Is that something that you cover a lot in your work? And if so, why?
Most definitely. Currently, the day job is I work at Lamar University, and we're currently working on a documentary about the Charlton Pollard neighborhood, which is the oldest Black community in Beaumont. Mm-hmm. We're giving an opportunity for students to get hands-on experience in the craft. And as I talk to people about their neighborhood and the history of what we've done as Black people, it's important to share that. We're finding out that there's not written documentation anywhere. So there's a lot of times, this is the first time these stories are being shared or being told. So we need to be sure to document this history for future generations to understand what happened. And I firmly believe that if you can create an entertainment component within whatever story you're telling, if you can entertain and educate, that's very important.
And Charla, Thank you, Lee, and thank you, Gordon. Charla, with some of the work that you've done, do you feel as though you're getting enough of these kinds of roles? Do you see the kinds of stories that you want to be a part of and showcase? Are they prevalent enough for you in your experience?
Not necessarily. No, I don't feel like. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I feel like the roles I'm getting aren't necessarily have anything to do with our history or to educate about our history. I just haven't seen that come around. I've seen Lee post stuff about it, you know, and I've seen some theater companies post some things. But that's usually been for people that's younger than me to participate in, and that's stage plays. I haven't seen any films. I've seen films being done about history other than mine, other than BIPOC history, but not mine. I've wanted to be involved, and not even to necessarily tell our history, but be involved in those stories. But I'm not the right shade of color to be a part of that story, let alone be cast as the lead in that story. Because traditionally this was cast as a white woman in the past, so we can't, do that.
Right.
So, yeah, that's what I've gotten. So I haven't gotten anything that's really trying to educate about our history. No. All right. Well, yes. Get into other layers if I continue to answer that.
Right. No, I think all of that is valid. And so we'll throw it back to Leonard and Gordon, our filmmakers, who I know that it's a matter of who's your audience, but who's your funding from and how are we doing this? By one of the things that you kind of brought up, Gordon. So Leonard, when you're creating your works or deciding what you're going to be, what stories you're going to tell as a filmmaker, do you feel that there's pushback sometimes on the stories you would like to tell?
So I'm a film actor also. No, I don't allow any pushback. If I want to tell where we come from, who we are. As filmmakers, and Gordon, I'm sure tested this, it's beautiful about this work create we want, if there's dollars behind, what you're doing, then it gets controversial, run into any of that, a few things that I've done, I played a film called The Great War that's on Amazon. I played a Buffalo Soldier.
Yeah.
Part of that film was telling the story of the contribution of the Buffalo Soldiers and the military wing hired, that was all black, hired by the U.S. government fighting World War I. So being a part of that and telling our history was beautiful. Another project I got to star in and help out, and a producer in a way was it's a story about a man named John Donaldson, greatest pitcher no one's ever heard of. For Negro Leagues, but I played baseball about the years. He's managed team only. He started the Monarchs. Starting that, he was the first black baseball scout for the White Sox, but he was buried in Mark grave.
Right.
No one knew about him. Was an honor as well. So yeah, I mean, the opportunities are out, but for the most part, we got to create them ourselves.
Good point. I do wonder, and I want to thank John Sullivan for putting his comment in the chat. Basically, it goes back to an initial comment that we had about how it is wonderful that we do have this holiday now, but there are still lots of work to be done. So thank you very much for putting that in there, John. And if anyone else watching has any questions, or if you're watching in the replay, we encourage you to put your information in the chat, and we'll try and get to those questions and comments throughout this discussion as well. One of the things you brought up, Leonard, at the tail end of that is those stories are out there, but we have to tell them ourselves. How do we work to have these things get to the point of a Juneteenth national holiday in that it's not always for us, by us? Do you think that there's a way collectively we can work to get more eyes on these stories, or where do we start? And I know that that's probably a lot of things to unpack there, but you know, we've been doing this a long time, so I'm sure this is not the first time someone has asked you this question. So.
Yeah, in filmmaking, it's not a for us only type of thing, by us only type of thing. Always, right? You know, what you're able to do is you want to be able to tell your story genuinely, but you want everybody in the world to see. You want to make money still. You want to sustain this dream of ours. So, you know, to me, it's just you tell the best story you can. You get the best talent you can around, and you be as honest as you possibly can. And the world is going to look at it, and it's going to be hard for them to take this off of it. That's what I believe.
Miss Shannan?
Yes.
One of the things that I've heard a lot recently is the idea of a black space. Yeah, that we create, you know, this black space for ourselves. And to me, that is one of the things that I've had to kind of wrap my mind around, that I am that black space. I'm the eyes, I'm the ears, I'm the nose, I'm the mouth, I'm all those spaces, so that I can bring the view that I see. Mm-hmm. And in order for me to do that, I prefer to, once again, go back into history, place myself in that moment as much as I possibly can, because first of all, we know that the ancestors never leave us alone. So there's always that opportunity to just kind of touch base with them and bring them forward with us to increase the knowledge, the love, the respect of that black space that we all come from.
For all of our actors and our filmmakers, but specifically for Leonard and Charla, when we're watching films now, and you brought part of this up earlier, Charla, was, how do we continue to create additional space for BIPOC creatives? When you see these, I'll use this as an example. I'm a big nerd and big geek. That's why Jayden and I are friends. And even when you look at things like the new in our Marvel movies and our geek movies and these things that are out there, and seeing the stories that were told in Black Falcon and Winter Soldier about, creating a space and still giving that voice to Black and Indigenous and characters of color. How do we continue to say, no, it's okay that this character is now a character of color or is played by a Black actress? How do we create more spaces like that for you, Charla and Leonard?
Wow, I think to get the support, first you have to have that support, and you have to, they would have to release the control, the power for us to handle that. I know that I was asked to work on a project, and not as an actor, but in another position, and I felt like my voice wasn't really being heard. Mm-hmm. You just had me there because I was a Black female, and you wanted to check that off the list to say you're trying.
Right. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Really not trying because you didn't give me any say so at all whatsoever. You were in control. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
It wouldn't allow me that freedom
Right.
to be a Black woman in that space and have any kind of power whatsoever. I think that they have to be willing to let that go and allow us to have that space and do us. And then there's so many people that are upset when that happens too. And so I think people are worried if they're going to receive the funding, you know. And just a slight aside is like when they decided to make Ariel a different color.
Right.
People were very upset by that. Or when Beyonce decided to sing a country song and they said, stay in your lane, you know. And it's just, it's like, oh, we can't make country music, you know. It is just frustrating to not be able to have that freedom or be given solely that power. And now, I'm not saying that there aren't Black women that are succeeding here, that are being given opportunities. You know, I'm not saying that that's not happening, but I'm saying I'm glad that that discussion took place. It was on Facebook, and then the next thing I know, it was national, where everybody was talking about Black people having their space, and theater companies acknowledging that and pushing for that. And I think they're trying now, and I would love to see, now that we're coming out of this pandemic, hopefully, coming out of this pandemic, I would love to see if anyone acknowledges that and give us more freedom to create and be free to act. And there were a couple incidents that I wanted to speak on when I was asked, do you feel free to create as a Black actress?
Right.
You want me to speak on that now? Or
One second, I would like you to. I also want to say thank you to the new people that have joined us as well, including Mike Phillips, who has just signed into the chat and is co-signing a lot of what you were saying, Charla. So thank you very much for all of that. And Leonard, I'll come to you in a second as well. So Charla, go ahead. What did you want to bring up those subject matters as well? And that might lead us to additional things to discuss during this conversation.
Okay. What I was going to say is, I remember one time I was doing a commercial. I submitted 2 headshots, one with my natural curly hair, one with straight hair. And when the headshot came back in the email to me, it was me in my natural hair. So I showed up in my natural hair, but something told me to bring a wig just in case.
Yes.
And I got there, and the director was looking at me like he was sad, like I broke his little heart. And I had to take him aside and be like, you know, talk to me. What's going on?
Wrong?
He said he wanted someone that was more suburban looking.
Oh.
So I had
and
to
you
go.
went, she lives in my bag.
That's exactly what I said.
Right.
He's right here.
I am co-signing and high-fiving you, because that exact thing has happened to me as well, where I'm going, you know, they're like, well, what else can you do with your hair? I'm like, well, whatever you like. It's called synthetic. I can show up, but you have to say that. And I do think that it is one of those situations where people, you know, they just don't know how to say it, you know. And I've had people code switch on me before when I've showed up on a set or done a voiceover where this is what I did in the read, but then when I got there, they're trying to find the words to say, here's what I thought you were going to be, you know, and that leads me to a conversation I think we can all have. What do you do when you're in that situation? And, you know, because I think that there is a lot of onus on us as the creatives to still be that person who creates an olive branch for people who do not know how to deal with diversity, although they want to use the word diversity and representation. So this is a conversation I've had with my friends or my agent about how do I handle it when I'm on set and how am I doing that? So for anyone who's out there watching, or if there's somebody that's in this space where they're going, no, I am an ally and I want to support, can we help arm them with the right language, or maybe help steer them away from those microaggressions so that it doesn't end up being a situation where Charla and me and Leonard show up on set and that code switching happens.
You have to educate,
Lee.
Okay.
but educating gets tiring when
Yes.
you're having to do it all the time. You have to have a master's in educating people about these subjects, but you also have to be talented at your craft.
Right.
Yeah, and it's really complex. You have to be able to. It is tiring, but you at the same time you understand that there are some people that just don't know how to say it, and might just come to you and ask, how do I say this? I've had people say, how do I say this? I don't want to say sassy,
Right.
because there was a point where I was being asked to be sassy, and I knew exactly what they were talking about, and that's what I would give them. Then I'd hear, that's not right. You can't say that. You can't ask people to be sassy. But I also hear people ask white people to be sassy too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's a fine line. It's water, that you're treading there. But I try to help as much as I can.
And I also think it's
there's a few approaches that I've taken.
In charge of that
Wait, one
space
second. I
to
think we're
create
both
that
talking. So,
environment.
Lee, let's let Leonard go first, and I'm going to come back to you. So just because we're both talking at the same time. Leonard, you go ahead and go first.
Well, no. I wanted to hear Lee, actually.
Okay.
That was Gordon.
I know authority on this one.
That was Gordon. So
sorry. Thank you.
that was Gordon, not me.
Okay.
Oh,
no problem.
Yeah.
I think whoever is in charge of that set or that space creatively, they have to create the environment for discussions to happen, for people to have the conversations, to where if everybody is comfortable, you're going to have a better project in the end if you're able to have those collaborative conversations.
Right.
So that maybe take place.
Something that I do. I'm sorry, I'm gonna just say this quick. Something that I do is it's been a couple ways, and it depends on what it is that they're looking for. I like family, right? I like to use how I grew up, where I like to use my people of helping a director understand what he wants, because sometimes people who peer into your culture, they don't really know how to, they don't really even know what it looks like. They just like, when this happened, I had this feeling, and they'll try to explain it to you in that kind of way sometimes. And sometimes I use, where it's like, and I do it in a way where they relate to it too, because it's not that, these people are from, Mars and these people are from a whole nother planet.
Right.
So like for example, there was I did like a basketball film, and I had to play someone who had this animus with the main character. And it reminds me of that D-Ray stand-up where he's like, were you scared? I didn't. But that kind of feel. So the first time we kind of engaged during the audition, it was like, all right, that's a lot. No, like, can we do it this way? So I would kind of say, okay, now I grew up around these kind of people, okay, where, they were either ones, if they had an issue with you, knew in a very quiet way, and it was the loud ones who, if they had an issue with you, everybody knew, right? Which one are you looking for? You know what I mean? So that's like I do it that way, just to paint a picture for folks. But it's that's I guess that's my style and approach to it.
And I want to add this in just because this is one of the things I think I could talk to as well, is especially when I'm doing voiceovers, and Lee Henry Jordan and I are both originally, although we live in the Twin Cities, we're originally from Arizona. And I think that throws off Midwestern people because they have a particular stereotype in mind of what Black people sound like based upon this region. And I try to explain regionalities to people and go, well, you thought you wanted this based upon people you know with the Chicago dialect. I didn't grow up around a Chicago dialect. I'm from Arizona. We are non-regionally specific as a state, so maybe we sound Southern, maybe we sound from the East Coast, people can't tell because they peopled Arizona last, so we sound like everybody. And so it's explaining that to people when they come back and go, oh, we wanted you to sound more urban. I'm like, well, what urbanality are you really interested in? Because people have played things before. I'm like, oh, well, that's a dialect, and explaining that even within, they're looking for an archetype versus a Black voice, and they have an idea and an ear in it. And so sometimes I think it's even educating people on, no, it'd be the same as if you're saying, okay, I'm casting a Caucasian, but you wanted someone to sound like they're from the South versus someone that sounds like they're from New York, and explaining that there's the same thing.
Audition?
Yeah, that was actually, I was on a voiceover. And so I got there, read the whole thing, and then they liked it, and then they played it for the client, and the client didn't like it because the client had something else in mind. So when they played me the scratch track, I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. That's not what you asked for. Right. I auditioned sounding as I sound. You cast me. I did it. So the agency thought it was great, but the client had a different idea. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yes. As Charla said, yeah, I can do that. That's not what you directed me to. Right. But that's not a problem. That's not that far off of what I do. But there have been times where I'm going, okay, if you want me to if it's a caricature, then sometimes I'll go, well, that's not what I do, unless there's a reason why it is. If it's clearly a character and you want me to do it, that's fine. If you just want me to pantomime something, then maybe not, so it really depends on my mood once I get there, how far I'm supposed to go. Mm-hmm. Yes,
I had a very cathartic moment at a voiceover booth where I auditioned for it. They liked it. I came in and this is on me. I saw a lot of white people, and so I kind of went more suburban. And then all of a sudden, a sister came in. She said, "What you doing?" And I was like, "What?" And she said, "Just be you." And she said, "That's why I hired you." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "She was the client,
right?"
And she said, "What you doing?" And I was like, "Okay." And I was just first of all, it was a sister that hired me. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. So that I was like, all right, sister. And then I had to shed that. I had to let that tear go and be myself. Right. And that was it felt so good to just be me and not do these voices that typically get cast.
Right. It's nice. And I do think one of the things you brought up earlier is going, am I enough? And even within our own genre and our own community, going, I am me. If you want these other things, there's lots of us that are all this. There's a spectrum of people. But do you think that sometimes when we are seeing BIPOC characters that are created, do you still think that they're very one-dimensional, or there's that one, here's the lane that we think BIPOC characters in, or has it gotten better in the most recent, we'll say even last 5 years?
I think it's getting better. Hiring more BIPOC people, especially more recent, I would hope. Like I said, I can't wait to see what it looks like now. I think it's getting better. It's my opinion. I think it's getting better. I think too that we need to, if anyone wants to hire me to come and educate you on how to speak,
that's a side business.
I'm here. I will come to your office, to your agency, and I will do my best to educate you on how to approach. If you want me to be the in-between person, I will be that in-between person, because it has to start somewhere. We can't, because it's a lot that you can't Google.
Right.
You might feel funny asking your Black friend, that one Black friend you associate with, how to approach and how to say this. You might feel weird that that's what, you're coming to them about. And so, you can come to me. You can hire me, and I'll come and I'll train your whole company for you.
I think that's fantastic, though. And I know that we say it slightly tongue in cheek, but I do think that all of us do that. Everyone that's on this conversation right now, you can have us do that. And I think that it goes back to part of what Gordon said earlier, is that being that person is exhausting. So there are quite a lot of times that I encourage people to go, well, I choose to be in this space. So yes, you can have me come in and do that so that you do not bombard your friend who's really just supposed to be your friend.
Y'all
and
are patient.
Are we patient, Leonard? Leonard, you got no patience left?
I don't have the patience, no.
It is exhausting, but I think that's fair for Leonard to say, I don't want to do it, but here's the people who can. Who are going to do that. That's fair. So are you over it, Leonard? That's fair. Are you over it?
Because we find ourselves
I'm very much like, hey, look. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, like for me, it's about, like, do we understand each other? Like, educate you on how to talk to me. Like, if you don't know how to talk to me, don't talk to me.
Fair enough.
Have somebody else that do talk to me. And that's just me, and I'm not saying like my way is the best way or anything like that. Like, I understand people need to be educated, but like, to me, I remember growing up and, being what they called a kid or like misbehaved, whatever. And the majority of the people that were around me were all white. And what they told me about my behavior was, it starts at home. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's not on you to educate me when I'm you suspend me, you tell me I'm expecting me a referral or an F or whatever, but then I'm supposed to educate your kids, on the same type of behavior. No, it starts at home. If you didn't get what you in order to know how to talk to me and behave around me, then you're expelled. And the next person, and that's,
I think we have our next movie.
That's what'd you say?
We're writing the script right now.
I love it. I think that's fair, though, and I think that there are. I think, Leonard, I think that's real talk, and I appreciate you sharing that, because that's exactly why we have these conversations, because that's true. And then I feel that some people, when they get that particular storyline from you, they go, oh, well, that means I don't deserve to know. No, you have to do more work. You still have to keep, exploring and figure out how to do it. But that means that you don't get to take this easy route, was just ask the first person you came to, which may have been Leonard, but that's not his job.
It's equality, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you take the route I took. It's equality. We both going to see that it's a struggle to get here. It's not easy.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely.
I love it. So, and so Gordon and Lee, what do you think? I love
Gordon.
Go ahead, Leonard. You had a question to Gordon?
I just was gonna say, Gordon, any projects down there? Oh, did you? Can you hear me?
I play mother to Leonard's kids all the time, so don't forget, he's not a single dad. No, I'm just playing.
Oh, gotcha. Well, and Leonard was saying, if you have any projects in Beaumont, he's willing to travel. So, thanks.
Hey. Always looking to collaborate. So
perfect.
Let's exchange information.
Yes, we'll definitely make sure we have all of this out there. So
Let's do
we're, it's going to take us a few minutes to wrap up, but I do want to, again, thank all of you and thank everybody that's been watching this. So I want everyone, we talked about projects. If we can tell everyone what your passion project is right now, but then also how can our viewers, how can the Twin Cities Film Fest, how can people support you in whatever you have working on right now? So why don't we go ahead and start with Gordon and then I'll go around.
Right now, like I mentioned, I'm working with students on a project and a colleague here about the Charlton Pauli neighborhood. It's a documentary, and we're hoping to finish this project later this summer. So we're hoping to send it out to film festivals after that. So we will definitely be submitting to the Twin Cities Film Fest.
Please do. Please do. All right, Leonard, awesome. Why don't you go ahead and go? How can we support you and what's your passion project right now?
Leonard.com/donate. My wrote called Both Sides of the River. It's a whodunit murder mystery detective film. And it's what I love about that story that centers around a Black issue. But it takes where race isn't important. It basically Black folks economic equality at this time, and it takes place after that, but it shows that other issues we gotta work through too, even after the race.
And you said that's leonardsearcy.com/donate, Leonard?
Yep.
All right, I put that in the chat. All right, yep. Charla, how can we support you? What are we working on now? It seemed like, according to your IMDb page, you had a lot of stuff going on in 2020.
Man, I had a lot going on, a lot that was supposed to happen, a lot that got canceled. I was on fire.
Yeah, I know how you feel.
Man, I'm hoping that stuff, come back around. As far as supporting me goes, I would say that if I have a charlamariebailey.com. If you want to see what I've got going on, if I have any projects, I'll put it on there. Or I'm on Facebook and I'll post what projects I'm working on. And if you would just show up, that would be awesome. I just love it when people show up and, you don't even have to, say anything per se. Just show me that support. That's the kind of support that I'm looking for right now.
Well, I appreciate you. And I put your website in the chat as well. Mr. Jordan, not only are you out there casting films, but you do great work and partner with us at the Twin Cities Film Fest. What's the best way to support you?
The best way right about now to support me is to support Juneteenth.
Okay.
Because as far as I'm concerned, the history that we're, that not being taught to our children, we need to make sure that, that it's correct, that it actually empowers us and not take away from who we are, but add to the strength that we have and that we know that each and every one of us carry with us. And to me, Juneteenth is a big part of that picture. So if you support Juneteenth, you're supporting me.
All right. Well, we do support Juneteenth. We do support you. I also want to say thank you to everyone who joined us today and encourage you to become a member of the Twin Cities Film Fest. You can get information about panels like this. You can find out what films are going to be with us. You can also get great information on other supporters that we have. And we encourage you to follow us on all of our socials. We're very easy to find. You can look for the Twin Cities Film Fest at our website, www.twincitiesfilmfest.org. And again, I encourage you to like and subscribe to all of our pages, our Facebook, our Instagram, and our YouTube channel, so you can get other great information like this. And also find out, hopefully, all of the great films that we have coming up in our 2021 Twin Cities Film Fest. And we're very excited to see the work of all of our panelists, because all of you are great friends of the Twin Cities Film Fest, and we appreciate all the work that you've done. So again, thank you to everyone who watched. Thank you to all of our panelists. And we will see you again on our next Twin Cities Film Fest Empower and Amplify series, everyone. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Happy Juneteenth.
Thank you. Happy Juneteenth. Enjoy the weekend.